Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
All right, this is a Sales Logic. I should not be stuttering, Mark. It's 6 a.m. where you are. It's 8 a.m. where I am. I am alive and have been up for a few hours. So anyway, this is a show where we dive into the strategies. We're all about doing one thing, and that is helping you close more deals. So Mark, let's head into it. What's on tap for today?
We are talking today about the biggest mistakes in sales today. Hey, with chat and everything else, believe me, stuff is changing. But what are those biggest mistakes? We got a lightning round, top 10 ways to use client testimonials. And we got an excellent book that everyone needs to read. I won't tease that. We'll save that for later on in the show. So, okay, biggest mistakes in sales today. Now, you haven't made any mistakes, but what have you heard other people say?
Yeah, just a couple. I'm going to start with one that you said. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes in sales today, I think I'm going to say it two ways. I think one of the biggest mistakes is not using AI. And then I think one of the biggest mistakes is overusing AI. And what I mean by that is that it's, I don't know about you, but we were just talking about a board that we're on together and how our executive director our president was using AI for something that it helps so much. I mean, there's so many opportunities to use it. At the same time, if you overuse it, you can look really canned and really like nothing seems genuine or authentic.
That's the challenge, because you can almost create a sense of numbness. If we are wind up, it's like when smartphones first came out, then it just becomes a normal tool. So the challenge is, are you breaking through? And the whole biggest thing that I think people make with sales mistakes is they're lazy. They're flat out lazy. And the laziness shows up in that they don't follow up. You talk about that a lot, right? I mean, how many sales do you think are lost? I closed a gig this week, and it was purely because I was just staying in touch every few weeks. And it just became very natural. And if we're not following up, it's a huge mistake people make.
Yeah, I love what Bryn Tillman is saying here. One of the biggest sales mistakes is when a salesperson focuses on making the sale versus solving the problem. So true. Bryn, I'm gonna go off on that one a little bit too. I think we overcomplicate the sales process today. I think one of the biggest things that's really changed in sales today is the fact that life is so complicated, and everything is so complicated. And if you really, really need to be incredibly simple. It's like what Bryn says. First of all, you need to know what the problem is. So you need to be relevant, and then you need to simply solve it. I think politicians, I don't want to get into politics on this show, but politicians are great at it. You can tell at the beginning of an election, whether it's in your state or whether, it's a presidential election, you can tell who's going to win based on how simple the message is. It's kind of like when what's his name, who was Bill Clinton's guy, and he said, it's about the economy, stupid, and everything. Then people got it, right? And you just think about, it's really about clarity, and you have to be very, very clear about what problem you solve and how you're going to solve it.
Now let's stop and think about that for a moment, because what was Clinton focusing on? He was focusing on the solution. He was focusing on the solution. Salespeople get so caught up in the product. I had several coaching calls this week where that came up, and they were saying that deals were stalling out, deals were not closing, deals were not moving through. And it's because really what it came down to was the salesperson did not understand what is the need that the customer has. And we've talked about this before. We get too caught up because we love our product. We love our product, but it's the solution. It's the outcome that you're actually going to create. Yes, absolutely. Hey, I love Bryn's comment, using AI to write for you. versus interviewing you. Oh, wow. I'll tell you what, that is a false narrative that is screaming all over the marketplace right now. We could do a show just on AI, but I want to come back to some other things that I think salespeople are just simply getting wrong. And that is they're not being disciplined. Is, one of the biggest mistakes is because what they're doing is they're chasing the next shiny object, the shiny object of whether it be AI or this tool or that tool. And isn't it amazing? The fundamentals are still the fundamentals. And nothing's going to change the fundamentals.
Yeah, I love what Brent is saying here. This, guys, this is so subtle, but pay attention to it. Using AI to write for you versus interviewing you. In other words, rather than saying write me an email about this, it'd be like, could you put this in my voice? How would I say this? How could I really add value? And I think that's probably another really big sales mistake, is not leading every single sales call and every single engagement with how can I add value? I mean, getting in the mindset that you're going to give something away in order to prove the worth that you could bring to the table, like really focused on what the customer needs.
See, which is one of the great strategies you can do is you can take your notes coming out of a sales call and put that into AI, and with the right prompts say, what are some of the next logical steps? Not having it write your content for you, but having it give you ideas so you don't miss out on something. So this is where you do use tools to leverage your sales performance, but you don't use sales tools to dominate and control your sales performance. And that is so critical. There's so many mistakes that salespeople make. It's funny. When topic came up, I was trying to go through a list, and I'm guilty of so many of them. How many times have we jumped into a sales call where we think we know everything? We just think we know everything, so no need to prepare, right? Have you ever winged a sales call?
Oh yeah, more than a few times in my life, and it usually doesn't turn out really well.
and why is that? Because we are being lazy, and this is the whole thing. That if you think about it, you would never get on a plane without the flight crew going through a series of checklists. They go through regardless of how many times they've flown that plane, regardless of how many hours in the air they've got. They go through that checklist. We need to be going through that same type of checklist with every call that we make. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes salespeople make is they don't prepare, and then they get caught off guard.
Yeah, I love what Natalie's jumping in here. AI is a fantastic tool, but you have to use the right prompts. So that's another big sales mistake. Now, Natalie leans on Bryn to get her those really good prompts, which is always such a good idea. Because Bryn popped in here with a crispy framework: context, role, inspiration, scope, and prohibitions. You ask me all the questions needed to complete this task one at a time. And in other words, AI will really get it right. But Mark, I want to go back to this idea of being quote unquote lazy. I do think that another big mistake that salespeople make is we start and we stop. I mean, when you think about momentum, if you were going to run 5 miles, you're going to run it a lot quicker if you just continuously run, even at a slower pace, than if you sprint it and you stop and then you have to start. You have to start again. Back when I swam in college, they used to tell us not to look in the other lane at the other swimmer, because anything that would pause us, we would have to gain momentum again. So really treating that sales as a lifestyle.
Oh, it just flashed through my mind. I was running a half marathon about a year ago, and I remember there was a guy who would run past me, and like quarter mile further, I'd see him stop, and I just keep going, and then he'd run past me again. And it's funny, but as we got closer and closer, he disappeared.
Yeah.
He disappeared because he was starting and finishing. Consistency is what is absolutely key when it comes to sales. And this comes back to this whole thing that we can have too much in our pipeline. We have so much in our pipeline that we don't have the ability to maneuver, to manage, to control what's there. And that is this is why I say you've got to validate your prospect. This is another big mistake. People think just because they have a voice, just because they returned a call, they downloaded a PDF, they're a prospect. No. They're just innate. They are just innate. Don't get carried away with all of those names and leads that are in your CRM system, because you know what? They're really not qualified prospects.
Yeah, such a good point. Lisa Bragg says, don't forget we are humans helping humans. In fact, Lisa, I think you're dead on. I think that's more important than it has ever been. I mean, one of the things I always try to do is I always try to get the customer on a call and video if I can do it better. I don't do a lot of my stuff in person because I work all over the world, but I'm trying to do this. And the reason is because if I can connect with you, if I can meet you, I know I can sell you. So I feel like all this technology, forgetting the fact that at the end of the day, we're human. And Bryn, I'm going to pop in on one of yours here, is not using AI for pre-call planning. And then I think another big mistake is not checking AI. I was just using AI this morning for pre-call planning, and I put a couple of prompts in to help me personalize an email. And they got the business wrong. They were in the wrong industry, and understandably, right? I mean, it's a software. I mean, it's technology, but you still have to get in there and pay attention to it. It's still work. This is making you more productive.
Oh, there's so many things there. Hey, I want to jump to the question real quick that comes to us this week from Lenora in Toronto. She says, I'm struggling with my sales managers. I feel like he wants me to focus on the wrong sales strategies for our market. I've been doing his sales process for more than 6 months, and I'm not getting results. I've tried to talk with him about ideas, but he's not open. I'm also about to go on a performance improvement plan for not hitting my numbers. Help. What do I do? I have one solution, Lenora. Quit now.
No, you can't. You know what? I think we could do a whole segment. I think we could do a whole show on this. The thing is that at the end of the day, I always tell my clients, you have to know the difference between what you're going to get slapped for and what you're going to get shot for. And sometimes when you work for a manager who really doesn't understand what you're doing, or who isn't better at you than what you do, sometimes you got to get slapped around a little bit, but you're going to get shot if you don't produce the numbers. So in other words, if Mark is telling me to do something that isn't going to produce the numbers, you know what? He's going to shoot me either way at the end of the day if I don't get the numbers. So I'll take a slap here and there because I'm going to do what I need to do to produce the numbers. That would be my advice for you. Not politically correct, but take a slap here and there, but don't get shot.
Hey, I love Bill Snow's comment.
This is such good advice.
This is excellent. If you use a tool like Fathom, when you're on a Zoom call, put the transcript into chat and ask them how you could have brought more value to the call. See, this becomes your coach. This is so key. This is where these techniques, these tools out there do help you, but you cannot become blinded by them and think they're going to do 100% of your job. And you can go off and play golf all day. Oh, excuse me. That's what Meridith does anyway.
That's what I would do.
That's right.
Yeah, in a flat second. Listen, Bill, what I love so much about this is that let's assume that Bill did this and he just had a great call with me. I mean, he hit it out of the park. He's still questioning whether he could have added more value. That's what's so brilliant about it. I think a big mistake is to get off the call and go, yeah, we nailed it. People ask me all the time about doing live coaching sessions. You know, if you're out on a ride with some of your sales reps, you get in the car and you talk about it, whether they did a good job or whether they didn't do a good job. Because more importantly, if I ace that sales call, if I'm not mindful about it, I don't know why I aced that sales call. So really taking that time to really think about it. Mark, I think one of the biggest sales mistakes people make, and I just shot a video about this, is not paying attention to urgent need. In fact, I think it's the biggest mistake with sales presentations today. You start a sales presentation with your story. Nobody cares about your story. Nobody cares about your story at all. I don't care if you are a company that came from nothing and you made it to $10 billion. Nobody cares. When I am sitting in front of you, I am not listening to you until you solve whatever the biggest thing is on my mind. Even if the biggest thing on my mind is the fact that I can't get my computer to turn on. If I can't get my computer to turn on, you better have some advice for me of how. That is the way the human brain works. Whatever I am distracted about right now, all of you are doing it. I don't know what's on your to-do list today, but the hottest thing on your to-do list is where your mind is, the biggest problem. And until I solve that, you are not listening to me.
See, and this comes back to what I think so many salespeople make a mistake at the beginning is they race to close the deal. They absolutely race to close the deal And they thought, well, the discovery phase. No, the discovery phase, all it is you're asking the customer a few questions. You're getting a couple answers, and then you rate. And what happens is you race forward. So you have no idea what the solution is. So then you think what the solution is price. One of the biggest mistakes salespeople make is their over-reliance on price to close the deal. Price is totally irrelevant when you understand the solution, the problem. In other words, is it urgent? Is it essential? Is it absolutely mission critical for them to get this problem solved? If they are, if that is, then guess what? What you have to offer is going to absolutely help them. But it comes back to the fact at the beginning, we're not taking the time to uncover what is the real need that the customer has.
Yeah, I love this. Natalie made calls yesterday afternoon, person to person. It's an old topic that is new value because people appreciate the personal touch. That's right. It's about being different in the marketplace, which is another mistake that salespeople make, is that when, if your emails aren't getting answered, then guess what? Email went dead. You've got to try a different medium. You've got to try really something else. I love this one, wasting too much time on prospects who aren't profitable and can't really afford the service.
So much value there in both those. I want to unpack Natalie. Now, we're recording this on Saturday morning. That means she was doing those calls on Friday afternoon.
Mark's
Natalie,
favorite time.
Oh, man, Friday afternoon phone call, especially in the summer. People are a little more laid back. So you may not have as many people that you can connect with, but those you do, great conversation. So, Natalie, you score points on that one. And, Perso, absolutely. Wasting too much time on people who don't, if you can't validate them early on that they can fit what it is that you can do, why are you wasting time with them? Again, it comes back to validating your prospect.
Yeah, I think another big sales mistake that people make today is not understanding the importance of personal branding, not understanding that the sales cycle is about 50% over before you ever talk to a person. And so you have to be out there. I just got a deal. I just inked the contract yesterday, and they found me through AI. And so, and I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know if I didn't have a lot of contact out there, if like they put in the type of sales speaker they were looking for, and I popped up. And so, it isn't like they followed me on LinkedIn. It isn't like they did anything else, but if my content wasn't out there, they never would have found me.
That is so critical. And that's going to come back. And I'm going to bring that up when we get to our lightning round, because all that content helps what we're going to talk about in the lightning round. But this comes back to this whole premise that you do have to create a reputation. We all have a reputation. And we've said this many, many times before. Reputation arrives before you do, because customers are checking you out before they do. There are so many things that salespeople can get wrong. But what it comes down to is don't try to short circuit the process. Stay with your plan and execute. And just remember, it's follow up all the way through.
Yeah, so true. I mean, and not understanding, I think another big sales mistake that people make is they follow up about them. Just checking in. Have you looked at that proposal? Wanted to make sure that you didn't miss my email. If follow-up is about you and not about continuing to add value, it's a huge sales mistake.
Huge sales mistake. Hey, we got to jump into the book. We got a great book this week. And I'll tell you what, if you're not familiar with this gentleman, you need to. Donald Miller has a new book out, Building a Story Brand 2.0. He does such an excellent job of breaking down how to craft a story, because stories play such a key role in your sales process, in who you are as a person. So what are your thoughts on the book?
I'm halfway through it. I just got it. And it is, I think it is 10,000 more words than his original one, which was fantastic. But it's all stories in there about how personal brand really drove sales and really, it just really made a difference.
And what I like about it is, as you read through the stories, you kind of say, wait a minute, I can do that.
Oh, so true.
You begin to see, and this is the whole thing, that we become the sum of who we associate with the most. So if you want to be a good storyteller, you got to hang out with people like Donald Miller. And so can't recommend him enough on that. Okay, you ready for the lightning round?
I am.
Top 10 ways to use client testimonials. Go.
Number one, make sure that they are on your LinkedIn.
Number 2, stay in touch with those people who give you testimonials. They give you testimonials once. Those are people who you need to stay in touch with.
Yeah, use them as social proof in any email marketing that you put out.
Number 4, link the right testimonials with the right people. In other words, you go out, you're looking at selling to somebody, you're looking at calling on this company, look at their LinkedIn profile. Are they connected to some people who you may have a testimonial from? Perfect. Leverage the 2.
Yeah, number 5, I would say back a testimonial up with a case study, with with a deeper understanding of how you got results for that person.
Number 6, when you get the testimonial, make sure you thank the person who gave you the testimonial. And if you wind up closing a deal because of a specific testimonial, go back and thank that person. It is amazing how much more respect they will give you if they know that you really cared for them and you really appreciate what they did for you.
Yeah, stick a testimonial with a little bit more meat on the bone right into the middle of a sales presentation. Kind of, you're on this roll, just spitting information out there. Just take a break and show them these are some things, these are some results we've gotten for clients and how happy they are.
It can be easy to sit there and write the testimonial for the person, but you know what? I love it if it just comes genuine words from the customer themselves, from the person themselves. And I'm not worried about having it be perfect. I can come back and I can ask them, hey, could we tweak this or could we tweak that? Same thing in terms of videos. Videos are a great testimonial to get. I'm not looking for perfection. In fact, if it's perfection, I don't think it's going to be as valuable.
Yeah. Number 9, I would say to use a video testimonial, make sure that when you send it out to a client, like catch the 10 seconds of the testimonial that's really good and tell the client just to look at these 10 seconds, to go right to 21 to 31 seconds. Like that's where the meat of the testimonial is.
Number 10, never stop getting testimonials. I don't care how many you've got, get them and put them into various places, whether it be your website, your sales materials, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be other places, but make sure you put them out there, use them to your advantage. Hey, great show today. Hey, we got another great Sales Logic Expert Exchange, the 4th Monday of each month. Got people jump out to Sales Logic podcast. You're going to see it there. Get registered. We have an expert every 4th Monday of each month. Hey, with that, I want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. Remember, Sales Logic. This is a show we do one thing. We help you close more deals. If you have a question, you want to be featured, send it right here to saleslogicpodcast.com. Reach out to Mark, reach out to me, or, put it on our LinkedIn post. We don't care. We just want to feature you right here. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Go close a deal.